Hey guys, this is Danny Perez with Hillsborough Community College and Figure It Out Baseball. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about another mental skill that can be very helpful or harmful for you if you don't use it correctly in the game of baseball, and that is called self-talk. Whether we know it or not, in our everyday lives we are almost always subconsciously talking to ourselves. So it's important for us to be aware of the statements that we are telling ourselves in order to make sure that those statements are facilitative. Self-talk statements can be either facilitative or debilitative, meaning if they're facilitative, they're helping us get to the goal that we are trying to reach. If our self-talk statements are debilitative, that means that they are pushing us farther away from that goal or hurting our chances of reaching that goal. I use the words facilitative versus debilitative instead of positive versus negative because there are some cases where positive self-talk can be debilitative and negative self-talk can be facilitative. Now, more times than not, positive self-talk is facilitative and negative self-talk is debilitative, but there are some exceptions to that rule. For example, when it comes to positive self-talk, in the training phase, too much positive self-talk can be a little bit debilitative, and here's what I mean. You want to say positive statements to yourself to make sure that you're confident, and that's great. But if you're in the training phase, let's say you're in your off season leading up to the spring season, and you are constantly giving yourself positive statements to enhance your confidence, that could possibly lead to you becoming satisfied in your training and not training as much or as hard as you normally would. Now, when it comes to game time, that positive self-talk is usually what we're going to want in order to increase our confidence in competition. On the flip side, negative self-talk, more times than not, is going to be debilitative. But there are some instances with some people where negative self-talk can be facilitative. In competition, majority of the time, negative self-talk is going to decrease your confidence. But in the training phase, like I said, in practice, in your off season, when you're preparing for competition, the negative self-talk may actually serve as a motivator for you. And it can happen in game as well. It just depends on the type of player that you are and your personality. But negative self-talk can serve as a motivating factor if you use it correctly. But again, majority of the time, it will decrease confidence. So it's kind of important to make sure that you are using it correctly and at the right time, whether you're in training or in competition. And it's got to be something that you know that you're going to respond to in your personality. What I mean by that is you have to know your personality in order to select self-talk statements that are going to work for you. The same statements that work for me may not work for you because we have different personalities and we respond to those statements differently. There are several different things that you can use self-talk for: to increase confidence, to decrease anxiety, to increase focus, among many others. For this example, let's go ahead and say that we're trying to increase confidence. Now, you might be the kind of person that needs really, really positive self-talk in order to increase your confidence. In that case, you're going to want to use positive self-talk, of course. If you're a guy that responds well to when you get angry and motivated, kind of a chip on your shoulder mentality, negative self-talk may work for you. Again, the first example is probably going to be more common than the second one, but again, you just have to find out which personality you are, what you respond the most to, and use those types of statements. For the purpose of this talk, we're going to go ahead and use examples mainly of positive self-talk in order to increase confidence. Now, you may not believe your statements right away, but it's important to keep at it. So what I would like you to do is go ahead and get a piece of paper and a pen or pencil and write down 3 statements that you would like to use both in your training and in competition to help increase your confidence. It's important to select statements that are going to trigger a strong positive emotion in you and use statements that you can relate to. Now, you want to use 3. I like to use 3 because you want to have more than one statement to go to in different situations, but you don't want to go really past 3, maybe 5 at the most, because you want to keep it concise and consistent and have a very specific message in each. Like I said, you may not actually believe these statements right when you start using them. So it's important to kind of train yourself, whether that be saying the statements in front of a mirror or saying the statements to yourself before you go to bed at night, but you want to continue to repeatedly use them over and over again and say them with conviction and confidence. That way, when you're on the mound or you're in the batter's box, you're actually going to start to believe these statements over time. As a pitcher, a couple of statements that really were useful for me were, I'm going to be aggressive and pound the zone here, or I've got good enough stuff to get this guy out. It's important to make sure that you use the term going to instead of got to in your statements. When I say I'm going to do something, that means I've got the utmost confidence that I'm going to do that. But if I say I've got to get this hit or I've got to throw a strike here, it kind of sounds like you're begging or you're hoping, and that doesn't really exude a lot of confidence. The last thing that's important to keep in mind when you're making your statements is you want to focus on what you want to achieve instead of what you want to avoid. So I'm sure we've all heard a coach say, or we've heard our teammates say as a pitcher, hey, don't lose this guy right here. Now, usually when you think to yourself, don't lose this guy, you're more likely to lose that guy. But if you say, hey, be aggressive right here, or hey, pound the zone right here, now I'm focusing on what I want to achieve, and that's my goal. That's a very different message than don't lose this guy. You're trying to get to the same goal, but the message is portrayed very differently in your mind. So you don't really want to use the word not or don't. When you say don't do something, you're probably more likely to do that. So you really want to focus on what it is that you do want to do as opposed to the things that you don't want to do. I hope this video helps you guys find 3 statements that really help you build focus and confidence both in your training and in your competition. Again, my name is Danny Perez, pitching coach with Hillsborough Community College, talking to you guys on behalf of Figure It Out Baseball. Make sure you check out the rest of my videos.